Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first PAVE Europe Virtual Panel. My name is Guido Di Pasquale, and I'm the Managing Director with Partners for Automated Vehicle Education in Europe. Well, today we are really excited, not only because this is the inaugural virtual panel of PAVE Europe, but also because we are talking about something that is really the core of everything we do. And that's the consumer understanding, the knowledge, and the overall perception and expectation of the autonomous vehicle technologies. On the other side, it's also important to understand what the AV industry is keeping pace with, as they are running ahead of the consumer in terms of rolling out of the technology. We at PAVE Europe believe that these new technologies could really offer the potential to create better systems that increase accessibility, equity, sustainability, the optimization of the overall mobility system. We have this opportunity, but we won't reach that potential automatically. We need to work on that. We need to work on that all together, be thoughtful about the system we put in place. And we need to avoid creating a new system only to realize that the legacy problem with old system persists. So cooperation is very important. This topic, as I said, it's crucial for PAVE Europe, and to discuss about that, we have today three amazing experts, panelists joining us. Monica Grosso, Scientific Technical Support Officer and Transport Economist at the European Commission, DG Joint Research Center. Hello, Monica.
Hello, hello on my side.
Then we have Laura Alchowskaite, Project Coordinator at European Network on Independent Living, ENIL. Hello, Laura.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
And Arwed Schmidt, Director of Strategic Initiatives for Passenger Transportation at EasyMile, PAVE Europe member. Hello, Arwed.
Hello.
So thank you so much for joining us and inaugurating with me our virtual panel series of PAVE Europe. I'm very happy to, I must admit, and very excited today to have you with me and to address this topic. I just want to start with a general overview of what you do and how you are involved in the autonomous vehicle space. Laura, would you like to start telling us about ENIL and what's your mission and what's your role there?
Sure. So as you rightly said, I work for European Network on Independent Living, which is the network uniting persons with different types of disabilities all over Europe, but we also work directly with the organizations who are working with persons with disabilities also all over Europe, and we're having connections beyond. And of course, as you can probably guess from the name, we're really working hard to make sure that the rights of persons with disabilities are also always not forgotten and put into consideration. And my role at ENIL is, as you mentioned, is project coordinator. I work for TRIPS project, and the TRIPS project is a project funded by Horizon 2020 program. And the main aim of this project is making public transport more inclusive and accessible for persons who are having disabilities or facing barriers while using this type of transport. So we don't work directly with the autonomous vehicles, but since they are kind of future of the public transport, we also put some aspects into consideration while doing the TRIPS project.
Thank you, Laura, and very, very important that you are here today with us.
Thank you.
Monica, you are from JRC, and
Yes.
you conducted many studies on AVs Yeah, please, could you tell us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me here. My name is indeed Monica Grosso. I'm a transport economist, and I work at the unit dealing with sustainable, smart, and safe mobility at the JRC. The JRC provides scientific independent support to the European Commission services, and I'm working indeed in research and innovation in transport since 2017, when I joined the Joint Research Center, indeed. So my activities related to the topic of automated vehicles indeed relate to research and innovation, and with a specific focus on social and economical aspects related to this technology. I have conducted, together with a group of researchers I work with at the JRC, indeed different studies back from 2018, looking at which could be the sectors at European level that could be impacted at economical level and occupational level by this technology. And then we also conducted studies on European citizen views and expectation about it. So what European people actually think and know about the technology. And then we also enter a bit more into a qualitative analysis of the underlying reason of acceptance or views and concerns about the technology. So this is say my experience and my work on the topic of today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Monica. And Arwed, you are from EasyMile, and yeah, could you tell us about more what you do at EasyMile, and what's the mission of EasyMile?
Thank you, Guido. Yeah, that's important. And actually, you said it in your intro words already, that the public acceptance is not a given. And thinking about the public acceptance, we actually have three big pillars to cope with. And the first one, that is a policy and regulation, that technology can be integrated, to understand how technology needs to be integrated. The second one, that is funding mechanisms. That means when you want to do something good for society, when you want to create the right technology, you need to address it correctly. And this addressing of needs on the one hand to an R&D, to the development of products, that needs to be done correctly. That is a funding tower, so to say. And then the third one, that is selling technology. At the end, it is about profitability. Today, autonomous driving is not yet a profitable business. We have many different objectives, and once it comes to projects that you really want to make good projects, you need to qualify those projects. And qualification, it's not that you sell insurances or that you sell cookies or classical cars. It is that this technology shall really be good for the people. So you need to understand firsthand what it means to make a project with autonomous vehicles. And that needs to be qualified. And there are many dimensions for the qualification of projects. And I'm also in charge for the qualification of projects with EasyMile technology. And all these three elements, policy, funding, and the sales qualification, that is part of my role for EasyMile, and I'm splitting into these three jobs, so to say.
Wonderful. Thank you, Arwed. So let's enter into the discussion, starting from a study, a report that was published by the European Commission a couple of years ago, called Expectations and Concerns of Connected and Automated Driving. Monica, you were part of it, and yeah. What was the framework of this study, and what the findings?
Yes.
What can you tell about that?
Yes, thank you for the question. Indeed, that was actually a big survey that we conducted at the JRC. Was a Eurobarometer survey. So this kind of survey normally look at a specific topic and ask people and citizen opinion on it. And in our case was indeed looking at expectation and concerns about automated and connected vehicles. So the study was run in 2019, actually, before the COVID pandemic, in all European Union member states plus UK, for a total of more than 27,000 participants that were interviewed at their house, their premises, and the interviews were done face-to-face asking a list of 18 questions that would look at different elements. So the participants that were from 15 years old above were asked to provide their views and experience in relation to the possible knowledge that they had about the technology, and also which type of experience, more in relation to others than, of course, the automated vehicle themselves. Then they were asked about their general views and opinions, and they could also provide indication about how they thought that those vehicles could fit in their mobility needs. And then they could provide also information about expectation, concerns, and how this would relate also to policy. European policies. So the results were indeed quite interesting, and I can just mention, of course, few of them. One was in relation to the knowledge that those people had about the topic itself. So they were asked whether they knew of they heard something about them in the previous 12 months previous to the field research took place. And actually 60% of the participants stated a positive answer, so they heard or knew something about it. And of course, the remaining 40% didn't, so it's not also so much. In relation to the experience that they had with others, many of the participants could witness their experience in cruise control, for instance, or automated transmission. But the range was around 30–40% of the people participating. Then they were also asked about their general attitude about the technology. So we had a question asking how much they would feel comfortable in an automated vehicle with the presence of a human operator in the car that could take control in a remote area, or how they would feel without the presence of a human operator. And here the percentages of comfortable we could see that was really decreasing from 70% of people being comfortable with someone taking care of the car in the car, dropping to 22% of those that declared that they could be fine without any type of control, of course. And again, one important information is in relation to the willingness to buy such a vehicle. So 50% of the respondents, so half of the people, declared that they would never buy an automated vehicle, and 28% declared that they would do so after seeing it used by other people, so after somehow experiencing it even from the experience of people they would know. And one interesting information was in relation to the activities that those people would do while being driven in an automated vehicle. So many of them around, they could choose different options, but 40% declared that they would just enjoy the trip and the scenery, but 37%, so still quite high comparing to the most chosen question, declared that they would pay attention to what the vehicle would be doing, so to the behavior of the vehicle. So this was also quite interesting for us. So overall, we could say that we thought, and we saw from the analysis, that people in general, European people in general, were not yet ready to the full deployment of these vehicles, but and we also saw the concerns that were related, for instance, to safety aspects and so on. But we also saw that they would trust, for instance, mostly independent entities and public entities for their development, so rather than, for instance, private companies. So these are just some of the insight that we got, but they were really interesting for us, indeed, also because the sample was quite big.
Thank you, Monica. It's indeed a very, very important research that you conducted. That is also it's the basis for what we do at PAVE Europe, and I think that also Arwed is interested in these findings, because it's coming from the industry side and the one providing this technology to the users. So my question to you, Arwed, is how do you see, what's your reaction also to this this study, and what you do at EasyMile to track or to measure this perception of autonomous vehicle regarding trust and acceptance, and yeah, what would be your reaction to that?
Yeah, first of all, the number 37 is high to me. It's an important number, and it sensibilizes a lot what needs to be the next decade, because those things won't change overnight. And what we have done at EasyMile is to focus on core values, and trust as a word is one of our defined core values. And we are convinced, and I'm also personally convinced, that when you look at different types of technology, think in electrical engineering, think in other dimensions than just autonomous vehicles, when it is safe, you trust something. And that is a very human reaction, so to say. So when we, and that is what EasyMile stands for, the safety, when we focus on safety, we can get the trust. If we mismanage safety, we mismanage trust. And once you lost trust, it will be tough to get it back. That is true for personal relationships, and that is also true for a very a very generic relationship, which is not so easy to measure. You ask for measurability. How could you measure it? As this is a large study on European level conducted to give those 37%. What we can do as industry is to make the best projects, to focus on that the projects are reasonable and impactful, for instance, for the society, that we don't do projects just because there is technology and you want to push technology on the market. This can't solve any of those questions, which are elementary today, regarding CO2 emission, regarding silent cities, regarding effective mobility, regarding inclusion. Look into Laura, there are many, many topics we want to cope with the technology, and not just push technology on the ground. And that means, for me, measuring, so to say, how impactful is your technology, how is the adoption. That means when we do have actually projects where you wait at the bus station and you see that elderly people are waiting in line for to be transported, and other projects which have not been so well constructed somewhere in Europe, just to make the technology integration. They're having, like buses, no one in there, like today's buses from the old passenger transportation, we actually don't want to have. But the new one, the smaller shuttles and the more dynamic on-demand systems, it's not a given that they are filled and that they do the right job. So this understanding, and this is not only on us in EasyMile, this is also in dialogue with the public transport operators. It's in dialogue with the European Commission. There are many different stakeholders in that process to really understand what is the right injection of technology, where does it make sense, and where does it simply not make sense. And we will need to articulate in the next decade even better the feedback, to digest feedback, not only on techno level or on public transport operator level, but really on the adoption. And I hope that with our work, we will potentially in a couple of years don't hear a 37, but maybe a 33 or 25, or I don't know. And this value slowly but surely decreases, because what we have seen, if you look back into the car industry 140 years ago, there was a big no to it as well. And then after a while, it was understood, okay, the technology does not harm me. The technology does something good, but it takes a while. And this adaptation progress is also here in full beauty at the moment.
Thank you, Arvid. And you talk about collaboration, and you talk about the importance to deploy and of projects, and so to work with
the quality of deployment. Sorry, the quality of deployment, that's another topic. If you make your deployments not good, that people simply either don't have the stations where they need it, or that you have not deployed safely, that as Monica said correctly, there is someone always looking, hey, what is a car doing? Then you also mismanaged your job. So for us, it is also a big thing to have high quality deployments. Yes, you're fully right.
Yeah. Indeed, and I think Laura could tell us about the needs of the users, and the needs with users with special requirements. You at Enel, you have a very clear mission, and you have worked on accessibility, on traditional public transport, on traditional transport modes, and now you have this potential of having autonomous vehicles that could potentially change also the way we all move. And I'm interested to know how you see it from your perspective, from the perspective of Enel, and perspective of from independent living.
Yes, indeed, and let me kindly correct you. We really don't use the term special needs because they're not special. Actually, freedom of movement is everyone's right, and including persons with disabilities, everyone has the right to move without any barriers, and that comes also with the public transport and autonomous vehicles. And that's why we are here, that's why we have a European network, an independent living, advocating for this, to making sure that accessibility is put into consideration when we are working on a future mobility solutions. And that also affects, of course, the autonomous vehicles. And to be honest, accessibility is often forgotten in the public transport still, despite knowing the fact that persons with disabilities is the largest minority in the world. And it's considered that over 12% of the general population is having some kind of disability. And this number is growing because the population is aging. And when people age, of course, they're having more health problems, and it's very likely that they will have some kind of disability in the near future. So that's very important topic, which should not be forgotten. But also, of course, when we were working in trips with the public transport, I would say that the gap coming is from lack of knowledge. And I would really support a lot what Monica said, that research is very important to understand why people, the intentions of people to use something new. And when we are talking about persons with disabilities, accessibility is not only considered as barrier-free, which is, of course, also very important to make sure that you can, use, let's say, autonomous vehicle without any barriers, but it's also a lot about safety, because persons with disabilities are more like, I don't want to say vulnerable, but they are having a higher risk to be, to be harmed if something happens unexpected. And in trips, we also had the research on two parts. First, we asked what means of public transport persons with disability are using the most often. And we noticed that, for example, taxis are rarely used in when it comes to persons with disabilities or elderly. And the numbers are very shocking that, for example, 0% of elderly use taxi, and persons with disabilities use taxi 5% several times a year. And it's a huge group, because when we asked if they intended to use taxis, they would say yes, but accessibility is the issue. And then we asked, more about the future solutions, which is like robot taxis, and that's autonomous vehicle. And persons were very optimistic, they're saying if they were accessible, 78% of persons with disabilities said that they would actually use the robot taxi, but they have lots of concerns coming out of it. And the main concern is about safety. Okay, if I'm using the bus, the regular bus or train, there's someone that can help me. What can help me, if I'm using the robot taxi and something happens and I cannot take care of myself, and the safety is really, I would say, the limit, stopping people to try new things. And there also raises the importance of the research, knowing exactly what are not only the physical barriers, but also the psychological barriers for people who are sometimes still hesitant about autonomous vehicles, because the intention to use those and to have a hope about that is really high. So that's two parts, we have the intention to use it, we want to use it, but we also need to be sure that, okay, if I'm disabled and something happens, that I will be safe and it's comfortable to use one. So that's the thing, I would say.
Thank you, Laura. It's very important what you say, and thank you for correcting me as well. And this brings me to Monica and the additional research that you have conducted with specific focus groups in several European countries. I guess that this had also other perspectives, and you also put some focus on women and a teenager, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, indeed. The additional research that we wanted to do wanted to investigate a bit more in detail and to understand the underlying reason of certain type of responses that we actually got from the Eurobarometer. So in that case was a huge number of observations, but at the same time we were missing some of the underlying reason for certain type of topic answers. So we decided indeed to have a bit more of qualitative approach and to look at some specific groups of transport users. So in the first instance, we had the focus group with transport expert and non-expert. Again, at European level, we had 15 focus group with 72 participants, almost equally split between expert and non-expert. And there we investigated again all the advantages and disadvantages, concerns and expectations. We could see though that there was not such a big difference at geographical level, so the results were more or less the same. We could also see that the main topics and aspects that were brought into the discussion from the two groups were more or less the same. So we went back to safety, we went back to the possible advantages in terms of time management, to the disadvantages that could be related to accessibility. Also, and the main difference in this case was that the experts could actually support those arguments with more strong elements and reasoning compared to the non-expert. But at the same time, the main areas and topics were retrieved from the different focus groups. Indeed, we also then understood from the first round of focus group that there were some topics that we didn't touch upon, but were quite spontaneously recurrent in the discussion, such as ethical aspects, such as privacy concerns, and we also know from previous research that mobility needs of different user groups are different, and we made a selection on deciding which user groups to tackle first, and indeed we chose to go for women, which of course is not a minority, and teenagers, and the reasons were different. First of all, in case of women, that of course represent half of the population at European level, we know that the way women move is different from men. So they have more frequent and shorter trips. And this is very often related to the different activities that they have to run that very often relate to household chores. With the teenagers, the reason to investigate their mobility needs and views about this vehicle comes from the fact that very little research exists on it, and still they will be the teenagers that will possibly use and also be really part of the future transport system. So we also wanted to know which was their own view, not like the ones of their parents or like throughout and indirect research. So in this case, we had the online and actually also a face-to-face focus group. So we had the possibility to talk with a group of women and teenagers. That was when we had organized the focus group, the ISPRA premises in Italy, where the JRC is based. And again, we asked what they thought about this vehicle and how these vehicles could fit in their mobility needs in the future. For the group of women, we know that women are very much concerned about environmental aspects and also safety. Again, comes back both at the infrastructure level, but also at personal level in the case of women. And we could see out of their responses that in the future, the use of automated vehicle could actually be a benefit, seen as a benefit in relation to their time management. So one of these issues of women having to drive around and then reducing time that they could dedicate to other activities, this is something that they could see in this as a positive benefit. In the case of teenagers, mobility needs are different, and what they could see as the biggest advantage is that they could become more independent. Indeed, the group that we had was ranging from 14 to 17 years old, but still, even though with some freedom in their mobility, they still very much rely on their parents to move around. So the fact that they could use this automated vehicle has been seen as a positive element. At the same time, the concerns that were raised for both groups actually relate very much to safety aspects, and also in the case of women, they don't see that those vehicles could actually bring for them a big benefits in terms of environmental consequences. And for the group of teenagers, the elements that would scare them most are related to the use of softwares and possible attacks from hackers, for instance. So this is something that also came out as a main result of our focus groups. I have to say and conclude that in both cases, overall, there was a general positive view about these vehicles, but of course, while talking with them, still the safety concern remain very, very high, and this is something that I think has been already brought into the discussion from Howard and Laura. So I can just confirm out of our research what they just said.
Thank you, Monica. Indeed, safety is coming back again and again, but also this what you mentioned about the focus group and the fact that you involved the end users, it brings to me to the activities or the work done in the TRIPS project that Laura mentioned at the beginning, where you also focused on accessibility, but also in the co-design approach. So how to involve the users in co-designing and providing their needs and requirements to the development of the technology. And then we go to Arwed to listen to his point of view about that. But Laura, did you develop any methodology or something that could be used also for AV technologies in terms of co-designing?
Yes, Guido, indeed, you are very right. One of the main aims of TRIPS is, as I said, like we worked a lot on accessibility, but in order to do to get users fully involved, we really tried and implemented the co-design methodology in 7 European cities, which were like our project cities. And the idea was like to really see if it works when you bring users with different access needs, when you bring transport providers and you bring city authorities or representatives of municipalities at one table, and to make them work on accessibility. And I must say, because the TRIPS project is coming to an end in the next month, that it really works. And me personally, I'm extremely happy about it, even though we had some challenges, because that's quite a new way of working. Because me as a representative of persons with disabilities, I know that, yes, users are often involved, but the involvement is limited to like providing feedback to something, providing 1-time or 2-time consultation, or rating the final product, but they rarely are involved from the very beginning until the very end, and also considered as an equal partners. And the co-design brings all of this, because in this view, we have no hierarchy. Everyone is considered as an expert, and users are experts of their own needs. And I always keep advocating that persons with disabilities know accessibility the best, because they really know what works for them and what doesn't. And when you have them on board, and you are finding dialogue with transport providers, I think amazing things can happen. But I would say that the thing I'm most proud of as a coordinator is that it really helped to establish a strong dialogue now the cities are so connected with each other. They wanted to keep going and they want to keep working on other local projects to making sure, okay, we work this time, like for example, on accessible journey planner, but maybe in the future we can work on accessible bus stops and you know, keep this core of the working group together. And I find it really fascinating because they really managed to listen to each other and to find the common ground and to find the common aims. They want to work together, and everyone bringing their own expertise, everyone bringing their own resources and working towards the same goal. As I said, the magic happens. So I'm really advocating for the co-design as I see it myself from the very beginning when we faced lots of challenges. And now I'm facing that, okay, you can actually make it happen if you really try. So that was one of the aims of the TRIPS project. And I would say that's our biggest win.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I think, yeah, I would go through to Harwood and to listen to him and what your reaction, and if at EasyMile you have yeah, co-design approaches or the way you involve the end users in your development.
Truth is that I start now speaking for 2 hours. It is really the core question for our technology in itself, because as Laura said it, mobility may not be luxus. So we need to make sure that the mobility is accessible. On the opposite, when starting something new, it's not a given that there is a regulation in place for it. That means when I look back at the EasyMile years with this autonomous shuttle, there was not a type approval. And even today, the shuttles which are bunched together are not part of one vehicle group. If you go on European level or national level in Europe to with a specific vehicle, with a car, then they are checking, okay, which type approval is it? And then at the end, you have the green light to be on public road. Exactly this is missing. So there is not yet this approvability. And that means that as use cases are not defined specifically, it is not clear which accessibility level needs to be achieved. When Laura says taxis are not used, why should robo-taxis now be used so much more? If you have the very same entry door mechanisms, the very same way of using it, there could be a barrier of accessibility. So what did we do? We started with a ramp. We do have now the ability to let people roll in it. Looks nice, but the truth is, today there is a service attendant. Think the full process without a servant attendant on board hosting you. Is it possible for someone without having any help to do all that? Especially looking back to the pandemic years, you don't want to touch things. You don't want to be exposed material-wise to something. So ideally, do you do it on your smartphone? What type of infrastructure is needed? Do you have specific proprietary apps to control specific vehicles? Is that a statewide solution? Or how do you make for people that have the need to have this, so to say, seamless entry barrier, as a seamless entry without barrier into the vehicle? How you make for the right? How do you make it? How do you enable it without having a valid type approval, without having regulation in place telling you how to do it specifically? So you need to do basically the specification yourself, and that is what we're doing. But we are with EasyMile, 300 employees today. We are not a product design center. So we don't design like smartphones do it, and you like to push a button, or you like how the camera is. This product level we don't have, because we focus on the technology, we focus on the safety with the technology. So what is needed here is actually, let's call it the white elephant in the room, the one designing vehicles which are compliant to a not yet existing type approval covering accessibility, doing it so smartly that with the technology we are providing, it really brings up a full system. Otherwise, we need to come up with a product design which is ever changing, because as long as we don't have regulation in place, globally, many countries will have different opinions on what is the minimum accessibility level, the maximum accessibility level, how much do you want to pay for it? You could say, how much money or price per kilometer, price per minute do you want to pay for this system? do we speak here about something that never will be profitable for a city to be operated? Robotaxis have to be profitable. Yeah, ideally, this is something where you want to earn money with. But a shuttle, as EasyMile is doing it in public transport operator use in a concession mode, is potentially never profitable. So how much is a city or the municipality interested to pay for the accessibility for this type of autonomous shuttle solution? By knowing that's a design specification, if it is done on a co-design or not, but that this design has not taken place yet. And this actually requires, looking here a bit to Monica, it's a systematic question. And in line with the with the implementing regulation on autonomous driving systems we're having and the addendums to be created on that, there's big room to start the discussion about accessibility and what needs to be done that this topic is solved early on. Because as I said in the last question, safety generates trust. But also if you now do mistakes with the autonomous vehicles, a large group, I don't know if the 12% is correct or not, but a large fraction of the ones you want to reach might be completely out of reach for you. So we need to cover that in the society, but today the means to cover it correctly are not there because the players in the market are not there and because the regulation for the players in the market isn't there.
Thank you, Arvid. Very, very clear to the point. We are coming to an end of our first virtual panel, but before ending, I would like to ask you a quick question to all of you. Monica, well, we talked about research. What would be the future research to improve the public understanding and to what's the next steps for research?
Well, thank you for asking. And I think throughout the discussion today, I think we have touched upon some key words that I think we should focus on also in the future in research. And I think the first one that was recurrent is safety and the importance that people actually trust the technology because it's safe. And if this is the case, then it's important that people, first of all, know about the technology, know what it's about. And this is not something that from our point of view is completely in place at European level, and I guess also beyond. So the first step, I think, is important to make people aware of what the technology is about and which could be the possible benefits that this could bring to them and to the society. And I think in order to do this, and I agree very much with what Laura said, it's important to have a direct experience with the technology, if possible, and a direct participation. Just as an example, with the teenagers and with the women participating in real at our activities at the JRC, we could do an additional exercise that was to make them experience a prototype of an automated vehicle. So that was just to see how the vehicle would behave. They were not on board, but just the fact that they could actually experience that vehicle made them be, first of all, more curious about it, somehow also less scared, and definitely wanted to know more about it, and actually going beyond just this experience and really being part of the whole process throughout co-creation and co-design of not just the vehicle, but the overall impact that the vehicle could have in our infrastructure and in our society. I think it's crucial to have the technology accepted in the future. Otherwise, we risk indeed that the technology is there, but the possible opportunities that this can bring us not really capture from the people that will actually use it. And one activity that actually the Joint Research Center is carrying out at the moment is the activity of the living labs, the future mobility living labs, where indeed we test different technologies, and this automated vehicle prototype is one of the different technologies. We have colleagues at the JRC that can actually experience what it means and interact and indeed support from a not just a scientific point of view, but also as really users of the technology, its development. So I would really think that this type of experience are necessary. And well, it's important also to remember that the whole process takes time. So it cannot happen from one day to the other, but at the same time, we cannot really postpone the moment when people and citizens are involved in all the process, indeed for this reason, because we may require some years before it's really accepted and understood. And my last point in future research needs goes into the investigation of different user needs, as we did with women and with teenagers, really understanding where and how this vehicle could fit in their mobility needs. It's something that can actually help very much shape and define how this technology needs to be designed and then implemented, because otherwise we risk that we don't really capture the needs of the different users, and then as it was already previously said, we risk that it's not basically use the technology. So I think these are my main ideas for future research. To you.
Thanks a lot. And Harwood, in one sentence, what is the path that we should follow to educate the public opinion? Because as you know, PAVE Europe is the mission to educate the public opinion, but AVs, what should we do, in your opinion, to do it in a trustable way?
It's about the track record. So the better you are, the better messages can be transported. The more people see that it makes sense, the more you link it to larger goals, societal goals, European societal goals, the better you can speak about it and that it really makes a change. And we need to deliver. So we need to close the gaps we have today. We need to bring down prices for technology. We need to find the dominant design, which is so scalable that it can be easily deployed. So there is on many ends things to do. But I think at the very end, when you have safe, deployed, and when the track record, which is outstanding, at least on our end, we have a very good track record. When this can be transported into the future, is seen and recognized by people, I'm pretty sure that the adoption will come.
Thank you, indeed, Harwood. Thank you. And to conclude, Laura, we used to say that a system that is not inclusive for all is simply not fit for purpose. Is this what you developed in the LECO declaration, if I'm not wrong? And what's the aim of it?
Yes, indeed. And I very much support what you said. Like, what's the point of having something if it's not inclusive? And therefore, we indeed signed the LECO declaration, which was the product, I would say, for the collaboration together with the users, transport providers, and assistive technology suppliers. And to say it very shortly, because I know that we are running out of the time, is that this declaration outlines key principles that organizations can build on the implementing accessibility and fostering an understanding on how to shape future public transport models. And I believe that comes also to autonomous vehicles to become increasingly inclusive and accessible. And it also highlights the opportunities provided by new technologies, because as Monica said and Arvind said, that indeed people are trusting technologies and the willingness to use them is there. And they can help to speed up the process to achieve the goals and to make sure that whatever we create, whatever we're working on, whatever we design in the future, it's comfortable for everyone, that everyone can use it, enjoy it, feeling safe, feeling comfortable, and indeed, like that, all the possible barriers are put into consideration by having users users involved. So I couldn't agree more with Monica and Arvid, but they said, that it's very important, trust technologies, but also to foresee many factors that can really impact the willingness to use. So once we have this collaboration, and LACA declaration is the first step, I would say, not maybe first, but a step forward towards this collaboration, I think things could really become more accessible and more inclusive towards everyone.
Thank you, Laura. I really enjoyed this panel discussion. Unfortunately, our time is up, but thank you very much, Monica, Laura, Harwood, for joining our very first and interesting conversation today. The video is recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel and also linked to our website. So thanks again to the audience, to all of you who followed us. We will publish some key takeaways from the discussion, trying also to answer the questions from the audience in the chat. And looking forward to see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Guido, Monica, Laura.